A lot of people think poetry is just a short, flowery piece of text with random line breaks sprinkled in here and there, but that's actually very limiting because poetry doesn't have to be short or flowery, and it doesn't even have to have line breaks. It's actually really hard to define what poetry is because writers are constantly pushing the boundaries of what poetry can be, but it's helpful to start by looking at the difference between prose and verse. Prose is straightforward, direct, ordinary language written in the form of grammatically correct sentences and paragraphs. Verse, on the other hand, is broken up by line breaks and stanzas, and it has more of a focus on rhyme and rhythm. And most poetry is written in verse, which is why they're so often synonymous and confused with one another. So if you want to start out by defining poetry in the same way that you define verse, that's totally fine, but just know that there is no limit on what poetry can be, and you can expand your definition as far as you want as you get further and further into your writing. Before we get started writing, I just want to quickly define some other words that I just mentioned. So a line is a group of words arranged into a row. A line break is the point at which one line ends and another one starts. And then a stanza is a group of lines separated from other stanzas by a space in between. And some poems only have one stanza, but you can really have as many stanzas as you want. It's kind of similar to a paragraph, but not really. I'll just show you a picture, for example. I know it can be hard to start writing on a blank page, so before we write our actual poems, I want to give you all some warm-up exercises that will help you come up with ideas and hopefully help you fall in love with poetry. So exercise number 1 is to make a list of words that you absolutely love. Whether you love those words because of the meaning they convey, the way they sound when they roll off the tip of your tongue, or even the way they look on the page, it doesn't matter. All that matters is that you feel really passionate and excited about these words. And if you can't think of any words off the top of your head, feel free to scroll through a dictionary or a book that you love. And you don't have to do this every time you write a poem, but I definitely recommend doing it on the first time. If you finished your list of words and you already have a ton of ideas for what to write about, then you can skip this second step. Otherwise, I think it's going to be really helpful. So basically, all you're going to do is write a list of things that have been on your mind a lot. It could be a story you've been dying to tell, a problem you've been struggling with, a question you don't know how to answer, something mundane, something philosophical, something happy, something sad. It really doesn't matter. If it's been on your mind a lot, it's going to feel really good to express it in a creative way, and it's going to help you really fall in love with poetry. Now that you finished writing your warm-up exercises, I'm going to give you a list of poetic forms to experiment with. And a poetic form is basically just a way of structuring a poem. And this is by no means a complete list of all poetic forms that exist, so feel free to do your own research after this video if you feel like learning more. Also, I'm going to be looking down at my computer a little bit because I honestly don't feel like memorizing all of these. So, number 1 is free verse. Write a poem with no consistent meter or rhyme or rhythm. Number 2 is haiku. Write a poem with 3 lines. The first line has 5 syllables, the second line has 7 syllables, and then the third line has 5 syllables again. And they're usually about nature, but not always. Number 3 is pantoum. Write a poem with 4 lines per stanza, where the second and fourth line of each stanza is repeated as the first and third line of the following stanza. Number 4 is a couplet poem. Write a poem with a series of 2 lines that have a similar rhyme and meter. Number 5 is a triplet poem. It's pretty much the same thing as a couplet poem, but with a series of 3 lines instead of 2. Number 6 is an ode poem. Write a poem about something you love passionately and explain what is so great about that thing. Number 7 is a found poem. take a piece of text, whether that be a book, an article, a song, another poem, whatever you want, and pull out the words and phrases you love the most, and then rearrange them to create a new poem. And make sure to credit the original author of the piece. Number 8 is a blackout poem. Once again, take a piece of text, but this time we're going to take a black marker and cross out any words that you don't want, and then you'll only be left with the words that you do want. And you don't have to rearrange them or anything, you can just leave the page as it is. And once again, make sure to credit the original author of the piece. And number 9 is a concrete poem. Write the words and arrange them in a special way to create a shape or whatever else you like. If you're starting to fall in love with poetry and you want to learn more about it, I have an entire Skillshare course called Letting Go, Introducing Randomness into Poetry, and you can click the link in my description to get a free trial of Skillshare and watch my course. Bye!